Hello, friend. Welcome to Science for Sleep. Whether you have been here before, or you're just finding this quiet channel tonight, this is a calm place to slow down, learn something gentle, and let the day slowly fall away. Tonight, we are going to wander through the strange and beautiful world of poisonous plants. Not as something frightening, but as something quiet, old, and deeply woven into the story of life on Earth. Picture a garden after sunset. The air is cool. The leaves are still. A foxglove holds its tall purple bells in the fading light. A patch of milkweed stands near the edge of a field. A rhubarb plant spreads its wide green leaves above red stalks in the soil. From a distance, each plant seems simple. A stem, a leaf, a flower, a root hidden underground. But inside these quiet shapes, plants are making chemistry. Some of that chemistry gives flowers their scent. Some helps leaves resist fungi and insects. Some makes berries bitter. And some became powerful enough to change human history. Foxglove, known by the scientific name Digitalis purpurea, grows with soft bell-shaped flowers that look almost gentle enough for a cottage garden painting. Yet compounds from foxglove helped inspire medicines that affect the rhythm of the heart. Milkweed carries its own protective chemicals, but monarch caterpillars can feed on its leaves and store some of those compounds in their own bodies. The plant's defense becomes the insect's shield. And rhubarb shows us that a plant is not always one simple thing. The red stalks can become pie. The large green leaves contain far more oxalic acid, a sharp plant compound found in many leafy plants, and those leaves are not used as food. So even before we go deeper, the garden has already become more interesting. A flower can lead to medicine. A leaf can protect a butterfly. One part of a plant can sit safely in a kitchen, while another part belongs to a different chemical story. If you enjoy these quiet journeys, you're welcome to subscribe. And if it feels natural, to leave a comment sharing where you're listening from tonight. It helps others find their way to this calm corner of the world, one sleepy traveler at a time. The quiet continues here, just as it is. For most of Earth's history, plants have lived under steady pressure. Insects chew their leaves. Fungi search for soft tissue. Grazing animals lower their heads to feed. Wind breaks stems. Dry seasons pull water from the soil. And through all of this, a plant remains rooted in place. It cannot step away from a hungry animal. It cannot hide behind a rock. It cannot move to the other side of a meadow when beetles arrive. So plants learned another way to survive. They built defenses into their bodies. Some defenses are easy to see. A rose has thorns. A nettle has tiny stinging hairs. A cactus stores water behind sharp spines. But many defenses are too small to see with the eye. They are held in sap, seeds, bark, roots, and leaves. They are molecules, tiny pieces of matter shaped by the plant's cells. A molecule is simply a small group of atoms joined together. In plants, these molecules can create scent, color, flavor, bitterness, irritation, or protection. Some of them are made only in certain seasons. Some gather in young leaves, when new growth needs protection. Some are stored in seeds, where the next generation is waiting. This is why poisonous plants are not just a list of names. They are part of a much larger pattern, a quiet pattern of survival. The chemistry inside them was shaped over millions of years, long before gardens, farms, glasshouses, or medicine cabinets existed. And the more closely we look, the more the stillness begins to change. A dark berry is not just a dark berry. A white flower is not just a white flower. A green leaf is not just a piece of shade. Each one may carry a signal, a boundary, or a small chemical message written by evolution. The strange thing is that many of these messages begin before anything is swallowed. They begin with scent, with taste, with bitterness, with a sharp feeling on the tongue, with the soft warning hidden inside a plant that cannot speak, but still has ways of being heard. That soft warning begins with a simple problem. A plant lives in one place. Once a seed opens and sends its first root into the soil, that young plant is tied to the ground beneath it. It may bend toward light. It may turn leaves toward the sun. It may grow taller, wider, deeper, or slower. But it cannot walk away. A deer can lower its head into a meadow. A caterpillar can settle on the underside of a leaf. A beetle can chew through tender green tissue. A fungus can send thin threads into a stem after rain. And the plant must meet all of this without feet, claws, teeth, or wings. This is one of the oldest pressures in plant life. Plants first began spreading across land more than 400 million years ago. Long before flowers appeared, long before bees moved from blossom to blossom, early land plants were already facing sunlight, drying air, microbes, and hungry animals. As life on land became more crowded, plants had to solve the problem of staying alive while rooted in place. Some answers became visible. Thorns, spines, and prickles are defenses you can see. A cactus spine is actually a changed leaf, shaped into a sharp point that helps protect the water stored inside the plant. A rose prickle is different. It grows from the outer skin of the stem like a small hook, rather than from a true leaf or branch. An acacia tree may grow paired thorns along its twigs, turning each young branch into something harder for grazing animals to strip bare. These defenses are simple to picture. A mouth reaches toward a stem, and the stem answers with sharpness. But many plant defenses are quieter. They do not stop the first touch. They wait inside the leaf. They wait in the sap. They wait in the seed coat, the bark, the root, or the pale new shoot. Plants make thousands of special chemicals that scientists often call secondary metabolites. That phrase simply means compounds that are not mainly used for basic growth, like making sugar from sunlight, but are used for other jobs. Some help attract pollinators. Some help plants handle stress. And many help protect the plant from being eaten, infected, or crowded out. A leaf may look still in the evening air, but inside its cells, tiny chemical factories are working. The plant uses energy from sunlight to join atoms into larger shapes. Those shapes become oils, bitter compounds, sticky resins, irritating sap, or strong-tasting molecules that insects and animals may learn to avoid. This is why a broken stem can release a milky liquid. That milky sap is called latex. In some plants, latex can seal a wound, trapping insects or slowing the entry of germs. In others, it carries bitter or irritating compounds that make the plant less pleasant to eat. A milkweed leaf, when torn, releases white latex along the cut edge. A dandelion does this too, though in a gentler and more familiar way. The same basic idea appears again and again. When the plant is damaged, chemistry arrives at the wound. Other plants defend themselves through smell. Strong scents from mint, sage, thyme, and many other plants come from oils stored in tiny glands. To people, these oils can smell fresh, warm, sharp, or pleasant. To insects and microbes, some of those same oils can be confusing, irritating, or hard to tolerate. Oregano, for example, contains carvacrol and thymol, two aromatic compounds that help explain both its strong smell and its natural ability to slow some microbes. The plant is not trying to season food. It is protecting its own soft tissues. Even bitterness can be a form of defense. Many grazing animals, insects, and humans are sensitive to bitter taste because bitterness often appears in plants with strong chemical compounds. Not every bitter plant is unsafe, and not every unsafe plant tastes bitter enough to warn us. But the link is old and useful. A bitter leaf can make an animal pause. A sharp sap can make an insect move away. A strong smell can keep a fungus or beetle from settling in too easily. So plant defense is not one thing. It is thorn and spine. It is waxy leaf and tough bark. It is bitter taste, sticky sap, strong scent, and hidden molecule. A plant may seem quiet because it does not move like an animal. But its stillness is not weakness. It is a different kind of strategy. One built slowly, leaf by leaf, season by season, over deep stretches of time. And because a plant cannot escape the first bite, its earliest message often has to be felt before the bite goes any further. That first message often begins in the mouth. A leaf touches the tongue. A stem breaks between teeth. A berry releases its juice. And before anything has traveled deeper into the body, the animal may notice a signal. Bitter, sharp, burning, numbing, sour in a strange way, or simply wrong enough to stop chewing. Bitterness is one of the oldest warning tastes in animal life. Humans can taste 5 main flavors: sweet, salty, sour, bitter, and umami, which is the savory taste found in foods like mushrooms, meat, and soy sauce. Of these 5, bitterness is especially tied to caution. Many plants make bitter compounds because bitterness can make leaves, bark, seeds, or roots less inviting to animals. The tongue does not know the full chemistry of a plant. It only sends a fast signal. This may not be worth eating. The signal is not perfect. Coffee is bitter and widely enjoyed. Dandelion greens can taste bitter and are eaten in many places. Citrus peel is bitter because of plant compounds that protect the fruit. So bitterness does not automatically mean danger. But across long periods of evolution, bitter taste became useful because many strong plant chemicals are bitter. A grazing animal that pauses at bitterness may lose one meal, but it may also avoid a plant its body cannot handle. This is why bitterness can feel so immediate. It does not ask the body to think slowly. It arrives like a small gate closing. Some plants use a sharper kind of warning. Mustard, wasabi, radish, and horseradish can create a hot, biting feeling in the nose and mouth. That sensation comes from compounds made when plant tissues are crushed. In the plant family, that includes mustard and cabbage, damaged cells can mix two separate ingredients that were stored apart. When they meet, they form sharp chemicals called isothiocyanates. These are the compounds that make wasabi feel like it rises into the nose. The plant is not warm. The food is not burning. The body is reading chemistry as irritation. Chili peppers work in a different way. Their heat comes from capsaicin, a compound that activates nerves that normally respond to real heat. Again, the temperature has not changed. The mouth is simply receiving a chemical message. Plants can also warn through numbness. Some plants contain compounds that interfere with normal nerve signals, making the mouth feel strange, tingling, or dull. Others carry tiny needle-shaped crystals made of calcium oxalate. These crystals are found in plants such as Dieffenbachia and some philodendrons. They are too small to see without a microscope, but they can irritate the mouth and throat when plant tissue is chewed. The warning is physical as well as chemical. A smooth green leaf can hide thousands of tiny crystal needles inside its cells. Sap gives another kind of signal. When a stem breaks and white liquid beads along the edge, the plant has opened part of its inner defense system. Milkweed releases milky latex from torn leaves. So does wild lettuce. So does the familiar dandelion in a much milder way. Latex can be sticky. It can gum up the mouthparts of insects. It can seal a wound in the plant's own tissue. And in some species, it carries chemicals that taste bitter or make the plant harder to eat. Strong smell can work before taste even begins. A crushed sage leaf releases a warm, dusty scent. Mint gives off menthol. Pine needles release resinous oils. These scents come from small airborne molecules that drift into the nose. To humans, they may feel pleasant, fresh or clean. To an insect looking for a soft meal, they may be confusing or unpleasant. A smell can say something before a bite happens. A taste can say it after the first bite. Sap can say it when the plant is torn. Together, these signals act like a living warning label made by evolution. Not printed, not spoken, not written on a sign, but carried in bitterness, scent, sharpness, numbness, and the pale liquid that gathers on a broken stem. The quiet garden is full of these small messages. A caterpillar feels them through tiny mouthparts. A deer reads them through smell and taste. A human notices them as flavor, sting, or scent. And behind every warning is a deeper language, written in molecules the eye cannot see. Those unseen molecules are not all the same kind of message. Some are bitter, some are oily, some are sticky, some are sharp enough to irritate skin or mouth, and some are stored quietly until a leaf is torn, a seed is crushed, or an insect begins to feed. One large group is called alkaloids. Alkaloids are plant compounds that usually contain nitrogen, an element also found in proteins and DNA. Many alkaloids have strong effects on animal bodies because they can interact with nerves, muscles, or the brain. Caffeine is an alkaloid found in coffee, tea, cacao, and several other plants. To us, it may feel like a familiar morning flavor. To the plant, caffeine can help protect young leaves and seeds by discouraging some insects and slowing the growth of nearby seedlings. Nicotine is another alkaloid, made by tobacco plants in the genus Nicotiana. The plant produces it mainly in its roots, then moves it through the stem into the leaves. There, it helps defend the soft green tissue from insects that might otherwise chew through it. Alkaloids can be powerful because nerves depend on tiny chemical signals. When a plant compound fits into one of those signal pathways, it can change how the body feels or moves. This is why plants that look still can affect animals in surprisingly active ways. Another group is called glycosides. A glycoside is a compound with a sugar part attached to another active part. That sugar can help the plant store the compound safely inside its own cells. When the plant is damaged, digested, or broken down, the active part may be released. Foxglove, or Digitalis purpurea, contains cardiac glycosides. Cardiac simply means related to the heart. These compounds can affect heart rhythm, which is why foxglove became important in medical history, but also why it must be treated with great care. Other glycosides are found in plants such as lily of the valley, oleander, and some fruit seeds. The word glycoside does not mean one single effect. It describes a structure, a sugar joined to something else. What that something else does can vary widely. Some plant glycosides affect digestion. Some affect insects. Some become strong only after the plant tissue is crushed. It is a quiet storage system, like a locked cabinet inside the leaf. Plants also make essential oils. These are light, fragrant oils that evaporate easily into the air. That is why mint, thyme, sage, lavender, eucalyptus, and oregano can be smelled before they are even touched. The scent comes from tiny molecules drifting upward from glands in the leaves or flowers. To humans, essential oils may smell fresh, floral, spicy, or clean. To a plant, they often serve practical jobs. They can discourage insects. They can slow bacteria or fungi. They can help seal a plant's surface against stress. Oregano, for example, contains carvacrol and thymol, two compounds that help give it its strong herbal scent. Those same compounds can slow the growth of some microbes. The smell that makes a kitchen feel warm and familiar began as part of a plant's defense. Resins are another kind of plant protection. A pine tree may release sticky golden resin when its bark is cut. The resin can trap insects, seal wounds, and harden over time. Ancient tree resins, buried for millions of years, can even become amber. Inside some pieces of amber, small insects are preserved like tiny shadows from an older forest. This sticky defense has become a record of life from long ago. Then there are irritants. Some plants do not need a compound to travel deep into the body. They simply make the first contact unpleasant. Dieffenbachia and many philodendrons contain calcium oxalate crystals. Under a microscope, these crystals can look like bundles of fine needles. When the plant tissue is chewed, the crystals can irritate the mouth and throat. Poison ivy works differently. It contains urushiol, an oily compound that can cause an itchy skin reaction in many people. A leaf brushing against skin may leave behind molecules too small to see, yet the body may still notice them later. So the vocabulary of plants is wide. Alkaloids, glycosides, oils, resins, irritants. Each one is a different form of quiet speech. And once the garden begins to speak through chemistry, its beauty becomes more mysterious, not less. Once the garden begins to speak through chemistry, beauty becomes less simple. A flower can be soft, bright, and carefully shaped. A berry can shine like a bead of glass. A leaf can look smooth enough to touch. And still, the plant may be holding a clear boundary inside its tissues. This is one of the quiet surprises of poisonous plants. They are not always dull, hidden, or unpleasant. Some are among the most beautiful plants people have ever placed in gardens. Foxglove is a perfect example. Digitalis purpurea grows tall flower spikes that can reach about 3 to 6 feet high. Each spike carries rows of hanging bell-shaped flowers, often purple, pink, white, or cream, with speckled throats that guide bees inward. To a bumblebee, those speckles can act like small visual signs leading toward nectar. To a gardener, the plant may look old-fashioned and peaceful, the kind of flower that belongs beside a stone wall or cottage path. But inside its leaves and flowers are cardiac glycosides, the same broad kind of compounds that made foxglove important in the history of heart medicine. The beauty draws attention. The chemistry sets the terms. Oleander carries the same kind of double image. Nerium oleander grows as a rounded evergreen shrub, with long, narrow leaves and clusters of pink, white, red, or yellow flowers. It is common in warm places around the Mediterranean, in California, and along roadsides in parts of the southern United States. It tolerates heat, drought, salty air, and poor soil, which makes it useful as an ornamental plant in difficult places. A row of oleander in bloom can look gentle and clean, like a wall of flowers beside pavement. Yet oleander contains cardiac glycosides too. Its smooth leaves and bright blossoms are not an invitation to treat it carelessly. They are part of a living plant that has survived by combining attraction with defense. Lily of the valley looks even more delicate. Convallaria majalis grows low to the ground, usually less than a foot high, with broad green leaves and tiny white bells that hang from a curved stem. In spring, its flowers can perfume a shaded garden with a sweet scent. In parts of Europe, it has long been linked with May Day and spring celebrations. In France, small sprigs of lily of the valley are traditionally given on the 1st of May as a symbol of good luck. Yet this small, graceful plant also contains cardiac glycosides. Its innocence is visual. Its chemistry is serious. The castor bean plant offers a different kind of beauty. Ricinus communis can grow quickly into a tall, tropical-looking plant with large star-shaped leaves. Some varieties have deep red stems, glossy purple-green foliage, and spiky seed capsules that look almost ornamental. The seeds are mottled brown, grey, and black, like polished stones. Castor oil, used for many industrial and medical purposes, comes from these seeds after careful processing. But the seeds also contain ricin, a potent plant protein. The plant does not announce this with a dark color or a frightening shape. It simply grows in the sun, broad-leaved and striking. Plants often use color and scent for very practical reasons. A flower needs pollinators to notice it. Bees may be guided by color patterns and scent. Butterflies often visit bright flowers that offer nectar. Birds may spread seeds after eating fruits. A glossy red or black berry can catch the eye of an animal moving through a thicket. If that animal can safely eat the fruit, it may carry the seeds away inside its body and leave them in a new place with a small package of fertilizer. So attraction and defense can exist in the same plant. The flower may welcome a bee. The fruit may invite the right bird. The leaf may discourage a grazing mammal. The seed may be protected more strongly than the pulp around it. A plant is not sending one message to the whole world. It may be sending different messages to different visitors. Come closer, bee. Carry this pollen. Eat this fruit, bird. Leave this leaf alone, dear. Do not chew this seed. In that way, beauty can work almost like camouflage in reverse. It does not hide the plant. It helps the plant be seen by the right creatures at the right time for the right purpose. But being seen does not mean being unguarded. The garden can be colorful and defended at the same time. And the most surprising part is that these boundaries do not belong only to rare plants in distant forests. Many of them grow much closer to home. Many of these quiet boundaries are not hidden in deep jungles or remote mountain valleys. They can sit in a clay pot beside a window. They can grow beside a front step. They can rise from a spring garden after the snow has gone. A houseplant may lean toward a bright pane of glass. A daffodil may open beside a walkway in April. A rhododendron may cover itself in pink or purple blossoms near the edge of a yard. These plants can be ordinary, familiar, and beautiful. They can also carry chemistry that asks to be respected. Dieffenbachia is a common houseplant with broad green leaves, often marked with pale cream or yellow patterns. It grows well indoors because it tolerates shade better than many plants. Inside its leaves and stems are tiny calcium oxalate crystals. These crystals can form needle-like bundles called raphides. A raphide is a very small, sharp crystal, far too small to notice by eye, but shaped almost like a glass splinter under a microscope. When plant tissue is chewed or crushed, those crystals can irritate soft tissue in the mouth. The plant does not need thorns. Its boundary is hidden inside the leaf. Philodendrons and pothos plants, both common indoor vines, use a similar kind of defense. Their leaves can look smooth, glossy, and calm as they trail from a shelf or climb a moss pole. But they also contain calcium oxalate crystals. Left alone, they are simply green companions in a room. Their leaves catch light. Their roots hold soil. Their stems slowly reach outward. The problem begins when the plant is treated like food instead of foliage. This is a helpful way to understand many familiar poisonous plants. They are not dangerous by simply existing nearby. They are not reaching toward anyone. They are living within their own boundaries. Daffodils offer another gentle example. Narcissus flowers are among the first bright signs of spring in many gardens. Their yellow or white blooms rise from bulbs, which are underground storage organs packed with energy for the next growing season. A bulb is like a small food reserve for the plant. It holds stored sugars, water, and the beginning of future leaves and flowers. But daffodil bulbs also contain bitter defensive compounds, including one called lycorine. The plant stores its next year of growth below the soil, and that hidden bulb needs protection from animals that might dig it up. So the prettiest part of the plant is above ground in the spring light, while one of its strongest boundaries sits underground. Hydrangeas are different again. A hydrangea shrub may bloom in large round clusters with flowers that can appear blue, pink, purple, or white. In many garden hydrangeas, flower color can shift depending on soil chemistry. Acidic soil can make aluminum easier for the plant to take up, helping some hydrangeas produce blue flowers. Less acidic soil often leads to pinker blooms. This gentle color change makes hydrangeas feel almost magical in a garden. Yet the plant also contains compounds that are not meant to be eaten. Its beauty belongs in the eye, not in the mouth. Rhododendrons and azaleas can cover hillsides, parks, and gardens with heavy clusters of spring flowers. They belong to the same broad plant family as blueberries, but their chemistry is very different. Many rhododendrons contain toxins, compounds that can affect how nerves and muscles send electrical signals. The plant may look peaceful in bloom, with thick evergreen leaves and soft petals, but its leaves and flowers are defended. Even honey has sometimes carried traces of rhododendron chemistry when bees gathered nectar from certain species. In ancient records from around 401 BCE, Greek soldiers traveling near the Black Sea were described as becoming sick after eating local honey, likely made from rhododendron nectar. That old story shows how plant chemistry can move quietly through an ecosystem, from flower to bee, from nectar to honey, from garden shrub to human history. Still, the lesson is not fear. It is placement. A philodendron belongs on the shelf. A daffodil belongs in the soil. A hydrangea belongs in the garden. A rhododendron belongs in bloom beside a path, admired but not treated as food. Most familiar plants are safe in ordinary life when they are left to be what they are. Leaves are not always lettuce. Bulbs are not always onions. Berries are not always snacks. Flowers are not always harmless just because they are soft. The living world is full of these quiet distinctions. And even the word poisonous can be too broad, because a plant's chemistry is often unevenly placed, tucked more strongly into one part than another. That uneven placement is one of the most important things to understand about poisonous plants. A plant is not one single chemical object. It is a living body made of parts. Root, stem, leaf, flower, fruit, seed, bark, sap. Each part has a different job. And because each part has a different job, each part may need a different kind of protection. A leaf is a small solar panel. It catches sunlight and uses that energy to help the plant make sugar from water and carbon dioxide. This process is called photosynthesis. Photo means light. Synthesis means putting things together. In a green leaf, sunlight helps the plant build food from simple ingredients in the air and soil. Because leaves are so useful, many plants defend them with bitterness, tough fibers, hairs, wax, sap, or irritating compounds. A root has a different life. It grows in darkness. It absorbs water and minerals. It anchors the plant in the ground. A root may store starch through winter, the way a carrot or beet stores energy below the soil. For many plants, that underground store is precious. If an animal digs it up and eats it, the plant may lose its chance to grow again. So roots, bulbs, and tubers often carry their own defenses. A daffodil bulb, for example, holds the next season's flower inside it. It is not just a round lump in the soil. It is a stored future. That is why so many bulb plants protect themselves with bitter compounds. Seeds are even more important. A seed is the next generation wrapped in a small coat. Inside it may be a tiny plant embryo, along with stored food to help it begin growing. If a seed is destroyed before it reaches the right place, that future plant never begins. So some seeds are guarded more strongly than the fruit around them. This is where apples give us a clear, familiar example. The apple flesh is ordinary food. Sweet, crisp, juicy, made to attract animals. When an animal eats an apple, the fruit can help carry seeds away from the parent tree. But inside the hard little seeds are compounds called amygdalin. Amygdalin is a cyanogenic glycoside. That means it is a plant compound that can release a small amount of cyanide-related chemistry when the seed is crushed and digested. The intact seed coat helps keep that chemistry sealed away. Most people eat the fruit and leave the seeds alone, or the seeds pass through without being fully broken. The apple, then, is not simply safe or unsafe as one whole thing. The sweet flesh and the protected seed tell two different chemical stories. Rhubarb shows the same idea in a garden bed. The red or greenish-red stalks of rhubarb are used in pies, jams, and sauces. They are tart because they contain plant acids. But the broad green leaves are different. Rhubarb leaves contain much higher amounts of oxalic acid and related oxalate compounds. Oxalic acid is found in many plants, including spinach and sorrel, but the amount and the plant part matter. In rhubarb, the stalk is the useful food part. The leaf is not treated that way. You can picture the plant clearly. Wide green leaves catching sunlight above. Thick sour stalks rising from the crown. Roots holding the whole plant steady under the soil. One plant, several parts. Different chemistry. This pattern appears across nature. A berry may have soft flesh meant to be noticed by birds, while the seed inside is harder and more protected. A tree may have edible fruit, but bitter leaves. A plant may store defensive compounds in young shoots, because new growth is tender and easy to chew. Some plants shift their chemistry with the season. A spring leaf may not match an older summer leaf. A green fruit may not match a ripe one. A seed may hold compounds that are not found in the flower that produced it. Even color can be part of the timing. A fruit may stay green while it is still developing, blending into leaves. Then, when its seeds are ready, it may turn red, purple, orange, black, or blue. The color calls to the right animals at the right moment, but the plant may still protect the seed inside. It is a careful balance. Invite the right visitor. protect the most important part. Let one creature carry the seed, while discouraging another from destroying it. This is why poisonous plants cannot be understood only by name. The details matter. Which part? Which season? Which amount? Which animal? Which body? A leaf, a stalk, a seed, and a berry may all grow from the same root system, but they do not always speak the same chemical language. And once one part can differ so much from another, the quiet garden becomes even more precise. Not simply poisonous or harmless, but measured by amount, timing, and who is doing the eating. Measured by amount, timing, and the body involved, plant chemistry becomes much more careful than a simple warning label. A plant compound is not always harmful in every amount, and it is not always harmless just because it appears in a familiar plant. The old idea that the dose makes the poison is often linked to Paracelsus, a Swiss physician from the 1500s. He was making a simple point that still matters in chemistry. Amount changes meaning. A tiny amount of a compound may pass through the body without much effect. A larger amount may overwhelm the body's normal systems. This is true far beyond poisonous plants. Water is necessary for life, but too much water at once can disturb the salts in the blood. Salt is needed for nerves and muscles, but large amounts can harm the body. Plant chemistry follows the same quiet rule. The molecule matters, but so does the amount. Foxglove is one clear example. The plant contains cardiac glycosides, compounds that can affect the heart's rhythm. In carefully measured medical forms, foxglove chemistry helped inspire medicines used by trained professionals. But the plant itself is not something to handle casually as medicine. The difference is not magic. It is measurement, purification, and control. A laboratory can measure tiny amounts. A leaf in a garden cannot tell you what it contains. A plant's chemistry also changes with its age. A young leaf may be softer than an old leaf, and because it is easier for insects to chew, some plants protect new growth strongly. The pale green tips of a shrub in spring may carry a different chemical balance than the tougher leaves of late summer. A seedling has different needs than a mature plant. A flower has different work than a root. Even the same plant can shift as the season moves. Sunlight, drought, insects, soil, and temperature can all affect what compounds a plant makes. A dry summer may stress a plant. A wave of insects may cause it to produce more defensive chemicals. Some plants increase certain compounds after being damaged, as if the first bite wakes up a stronger reply. Preparation matters too. Some plant foods became useful to humans because people learned, over many generations, how to handle them safely. Cassava, also called manioc or yucca, is a major food crop in tropical regions. It feeds hundreds of millions of people. But the raw plant contains cyanogenic glycosides, compounds that can release cyanide-related chemistry. Traditional preparation methods reduce those compounds before the food is eaten. The important lesson is not how to prepare it. The lesson is that human food history often grew from careful observation, repeated practice, and respect for plant chemistry. The same idea appears in beans. Many beans contain natural defense compounds that are reduced by proper cooking. People learn to turn defended seeds into staple foods, not by ignoring chemistry, but by working with it. Plant chemistry can be compared to fire. A small flame under a pot can warm soup. A candle can light a table. A controlled burn can clear old grass and help some ecosystems renew. But fire outside its proper place can spread beyond control. The same force can be useful or harmful depending on setting, amount, and care. Plant compounds are like that. Caffeine in a cup of tea or coffee may gently wake the body. In the plant, caffeine can help protect seeds and young leaves from insects. Oxalic acid in small amounts appears in spinach, sorrel, and other greens. In higher amounts, in the wrong plant part, it becomes a reason for caution. The compound is not understood by name alone. It has to be understood by place and amount. The body receiving it matters as well. A human body is not a bird body. A bird body is not an insect body. A deer, a goat, a rabbit, and a caterpillar all digest food in different ways. They carry different enzymes, which are proteins that help break chemicals apart. They have different stomachs, different gut microbes, and different feeding habits. So a plant that bothers one animal may be tolerated by another. A berry that passes through a bird may be unsuitable for a mammal. A leaf avoided by cattle may be nibbled by an insect that has adapted to it. The garden is not making one message for everyone. It is full of chemistry meeting different bodies. And each body reads the message in its own way. Each body reads the message in its own way. A green berry in a hedge is not the same meal to every creature that sees it. A bird may swallow it whole. A fox may sniff it and move on. A deer may avoid the leaves around it. A beetle may ignore the fruit and chew a soft edge of the plant instead. This is because animals do not all digest plants the same way. Their bodies are built around different diets, different organs, and different chemical tools. Some animals have enzymes that can break down compounds other animals cannot handle well. An enzyme is a small working protein that helps chemical reactions happen inside the body. It can cut a large molecule into smaller pieces, or help change one compound into another. In the liver, enzymes help many animals process plant chemicals after food is swallowed. But the exact set of enzymes is different from species to species. A rabbit, a cow, a bird, and a caterpillar may all meet the same plant, but their bodies do not answer it in the same language. Birds are especially important in the story of berries. Many plants make colorful fruits to attract birds. A red berry or a dark purple berry stands out clearly against green leaves. Birds often swallow berries whole, and many seeds pass through their digestive tract without being destroyed. Later, the bird leaves those seeds in a new place. This is called seed dispersal. It is one of the ways plants move across fields, forest edges, fence lines, and riverbanks without ever walking. A cedar waxwing eating service berries, a robin feeding on winter berries, or a blackbird taking fruit from a shrub is not only feeding itself, it may also be helping the plant spread. But a berry that works for a bird may not be right for a mammal. Bird digestion is often faster. Many birds have shorter digestive tracts than grazing mammals. Their bodies may move fruit through quickly before some compounds have much time to act. Some birds also remove seeds from the pulp in ways mammals do not. A fruit can be shaped by this relationship. Soft flesh for the bird, protected seed for the plant, a small journey through the air before the seed reaches soil. Grazing animals face a different world. A deer, cow, sheep, goat, or horse meets plants mouthful by mouthful. It may graze for hours, moving slowly through grass, weeds, shrubs, and young shoots. These animals often use smell before they use taste. Their noses can detect strong plant odors that signal bitterness, mold, or unfamiliar chemistry. A cow may avoid a plant after one unpleasant experience. A goat may test small bites and move along. Horses can be selective grazers, using their lips to sort leaves and stems close to the ground. Learning matters. A young animal may not know every plant in a pasture. Over time, it may learn from taste, smell, discomfort, or from following older animals. A herd can carry plant knowledge without words. The safe path through a field is partly memory, partly scent, partly habit, partly the body's quiet record of what felt wrong before. Some plants become more risky when normal food is scarce. After drought, overgrazing, or a hard frost, animals may eat plants they would usually leave alone. A pasture in late summer can look very different from the same pasture in May. Tender grasses may be gone. Weeds may stand taller. Dry stems may crack underfoot. This changes the choices available to a grazing animal. The plant has not changed its nature, but the setting around it has changed the animal's behavior. Insects read plants in still another way. A caterpillar may test a leaf with tiny mouthparts. A butterfly may touch a leaf with chemical sensors on its feet before laying eggs. Many insects are extremely specific. Some can feed only on a narrow group of plants. Others can eat many kinds. A plant that repels one insect may be the exact plant another insect needs. This is why a milkweed patch can look untouched by some animals while monarch caterpillars feed on its leaves. To one creature, the plant says stay away. To another, it says this is home. The same field can hold many different readings at once. A bird sees fruit. A deer smells a boundary. A bee finds nectar. A caterpillar finds food. A human sees a plant and gives it a name. The chemistry has not changed. The reader has. And some readers do more than tolerate the message. They take the plant's defense into themselves and carry it away. Some readers do more than tolerate a plant's message. They carry it. A milkweed leaf, broad and green, may look like an ordinary meal. But milkweed plants, in the genus Asclepias, contain bitter defensive compounds called cardenolides. These compounds help protect the plant because they can affect an important pump inside animal cells. That pump helps move sodium and potassium, two tiny charged particles, in and out of cells. Nerves, muscles, and hearts all depend on that careful movement. For many animals, milkweed is not an easy plant to eat. Its white latex seeps from torn leaves. Its chemistry tastes unpleasant. Its tissues are guarded. Yet monarch caterpillars, Danaus plexippus, have built their lives around it. A female monarch butterfly does not lay her eggs on just any green leaf. She searches for milkweed. She may touch the plant with her legs, using chemical sensors that help confirm she has found the right host. Then she places a tiny pale egg on the underside of a leaf. A few days later, a caterpillar hatches and begins feeding on the plant that many other insects avoid. The young caterpillar is small, striped in yellow, black, and white. As it grows, it sheds its outer skin several times. Each growth stage is called an instar. By the final caterpillar stage, it has eaten enough milkweed to become thick and bright, a small moving band of warning colors on the leaf. The monarch does not simply survive milkweed. It uses milkweed. Some of the cardenolides from the plant are stored in the caterpillar's body. This process is called sequestration. That means the insect takes a chemical from its food and keeps it for its own use. The plant made the chemical first. The caterpillar borrows it. Later, when the caterpillar becomes a chrysalis and then an adult butterfly, some of that chemical defense can remain. The orange and black wings of the adult monarch are not random decoration. They are part of a warning system. In nature, bright colors often mean caution. This is called aposematism. Aposematism is when an animal uses strong colors, patterns, or signals to warn predators that it may taste bad, sting, or be difficult to eat. A monarch butterfly drifting over goldenrod or purple asters is not trying to hide. It is visible on purpose. Orange wings, black veins, white dots along the edges. A slow, floating flight that can be recognized in open fields and gardens. Some birds learn from experience that monarchs are unpleasant to eat. After that, the bright pattern can help protect the butterfly before anything happens at all. The warning has moved from plant to insect. This is one of the most beautiful reversals in poisonous plant ecology. Milkweed chemistry begins as a defense against being eaten. But monarch caterpillars turn that defense into their own shield. The leaf's boundary becomes the butterfly's message. Other insects do this too. Certain moths, beetles, and butterflies feed on defended plants and store chemicals inside their bodies. Some swallow bitter compounds. Some gather toxins from leaves. Some even take plant chemicals and use them in courtship, scent, or egg protection. The plant world is full of guarded substances, and insect bodies have found many ways to answer them. This does not mean the plant loses every time. Milkweed still resists many feeders. Its latex can gum up small insect mouthparts. Its bitter compounds still matter. Its leaves are not open to every creature that passes by. But evolution rarely ends with one simple solution. A plant develops a defense. An insect population slowly changes. A few insects happen to survive better on that plant. Their offspring inherit traits that help them feed there. Over many generations, a plant that once said stay away becomes a private food source for a specialist. Specialist means an animal that depends on a narrow kind of food or habitat. The monarch is a specialist because its caterpillars depend on milkweed. The adult butterfly can sip nectar from many flowers, but the caterpillar's world begins with milkweed leaves. So a field of milkweed is not only a patch of defended plants, it is a nursery, a chemical storehouse, a place where white latex beads on broken stems, while striped caterpillars quietly turn plant defense into animal defense. The story becomes more layered with every leaf. A defense meant to stop one eater becomes another creature's advantage. And from that quiet reversal, a long evolutionary contest begins. A leaf grows, an insect feeds, a plant changes, an animal changes with it. Over millions of years, plants and plant eaters have shaped each other in a slow back and forth pattern. Scientists call this coevolution. Coevolution means two living things change over time because each one affects the survival of the other. A flower and its pollinator can co-evolve. A predator and its prey can co-evolve. And a poisonous plant and the animal that eats it can co-evolve too. The plant makes a bitter compound. Most insects avoid it, but a few insects happen to survive. Maybe their bodies can break the compound down. Maybe their mouthparts avoid the strongest sap. Maybe their cells are shaped in a way that the plant chemical does not fit as well. Those insects leave more offspring. Over many generations, the plant that once kept most insects away becomes food for a smaller, better adapted group. Then the plant may change again. More bitter sap, tougher leaves, hairier stems, stronger timing, so the most defended chemicals appear when young leaves are most tender. The contest continues, not in a rush, but through seasons stacked upon seasons. You can see this in the family of plants that includes cabbage, mustard, broccoli, kale, and radish. These plants make compounds called glucosinolates. When a leaf is damaged, glucosinolates can mix with plant enzymes and form sharp-tasting chemicals, including the kind that gives mustard and wasabi their bite. To many insects, that chemistry is a warning. But cabbage white butterfly caterpillars from the species Pieris rapae can feed on these plants. Their bodies have ways of handling the mustard family's defenses. So a chemical meant to stop feeding becomes part of a specialist insect's normal meal. The plant answers with chemistry. The caterpillar answers with resistance. Resistance simply means the body can tolerate something that would trouble another body. Some animals resist plant compounds by changing the target inside their cells. Some use enzymes to break down the compound. Others use gut microbes, tiny living organisms in the digestive system, to help process difficult plant material. A cow, for example, has a large stomach chamber called the rumen. Inside it live billions of microbes that help break down grasses and other plants. This does not make every plant safe for cattle, but it shows how digestion can become an ecosystem of its own. A goat browsing through brush, a deer choosing leaves at a forest edge, and a caterpillar resting beneath a milkweed leaf are all carrying different tools for reading plants. Avoidance is also part of the arms race. Not every animal has to overcome a toxin. Sometimes the best adaptation is knowing what to leave alone. A deer may browse around a bitter shrub. A horse may reject certain weeds in a pasture. A sheep may follow older animals and learn which plants are usually ignored. Smell, taste, memory, and herd behavior all become part of survival. Plants, in turn, may make their warnings easier to notice. A strong scent, a bitter taste, a milky sap that appears as soon as the leaf tears, a rough hair on the stem, a waxy leaf that is harder to chew. These are not random details. They are small outcomes of long pressure. A plant eater does not need to understand the chemistry. It only needs to respond in a way that helps it live. The plant does not need intention. It only needs traits that help more of its seeds reach the future. This is why the contest feels like a slow conversation. One answer creates another. A plant says, "This leaf is harder to eat." An insect says, "I can eat it anyway." The plant says, "Then this sap will be stronger." The animal says, "Then my body will learn to handle the sap." No words are spoken. The conversation is written in leaves, enzymes, roots, wings, stomachs, and seeds. By the time humans began watching these patterns closely, the conversation was already ancient. People entered late, walking into fields and forests filled with plants that had been defending themselves long before the first garden was planted. They had to learn which leaves soothed, which roots nourished, which seeds needed care, and which plants asked to be left untouched. People had to learn those plant boundaries slowly. Long before microscopes, chemistry labs, or printed field guides, plant knowledge came from watching. A leaf was tested by time. A root was remembered by a family. A berry was avoided because elders said not to touch it. A tea, a paste, a cooked seed, or a bitter bark became part of daily life because someone, somewhere, noticed what happened after using it. Early plant knowledge was never just one discovery. It was a map drawn over generations, one small mark at a time. People watched animals closely. If goats refused a shrub, that mattered. If birds ate berries from a tree and returned year after year, that mattered too. If deer stripped one plant bare but left another standing untouched, people remembered the difference. Animal behavior was not perfect proof, because human bodies are different from animal bodies. But it gave early people clues. A field, a forest edge, or a riverbank became a place of quiet study. Human communities also learned through farming. When people began growing crops in the Fertile Crescent more than 10,000 years ago, they were not only choosing plants that gave food, they were also choosing plants that were easier to prepare, easier to store, and easier for the body to accept. Wild plants often had tougher seeds, more bitter leaves, or stronger chemical defenses. Over many harvests, farmers saved seeds from plants that tasted better, cooked better, or caused fewer problems. This slow choosing changed plants. Wheat, barley, peas, lentils, and flax all became part of early farming because humans learned which plants could be trusted, managed, and repeated year after year. Cooking became another kind of plant knowledge. Heat can soften tough fibers. Soaking can draw out some bitter compounds. Grinding can change how seeds behave. Fermenting can let microbes help break food down before it reaches the body. These methods were not invented all at once. They grew from habit, need, and careful memory. A grandmother's way of preparing beans, cassava, acorns, or bitter greens may carry lessons older than any written book. Written records came later, but they show how seriously ancient people treated plants. In Egypt, the Ebers Papyrus, written around 1550 BCE, listed hundreds of remedies, many made from plants, resins, oils, and minerals. In the Mediterranean world, the Greek physician Dioscorides wrote De Materia Medica in the 1st century CE. That book described hundreds of plants and became a major reference for healers for more than 1,000 years. In China, India, Greece, Rome, the Middle East, Africa, and the Americas, plant knowledge was stored in different ways. Some was written, some was sung, some was taught by walking the land, some was carried in cooking, ceremony, gardening, and trade. Folklore helped preserve warnings too. A plant might be called unlucky. A berry might be linked with spirits. A root might be treated with special care. Not every story was scientifically exact, but many stories carried a practical center. Do not eat this. Prepare that carefully. Use only this part. Harvest at this time. Leave that plant alone. In a world without modern labels, folklore could act like memory wrapped in story. There were mistakes as well. A plant that looked like food could be misunderstood. A useful herb could be used too strongly. Two plants with similar leaves could be confused. Those hard lessons often became warnings passed down with extra force. People learned that a plant's name, shape, season, smell, and growing place all mattered. A plant beside a stream might not be the same as a similar plant on a dry hillside. A root in spring might not be the same as a seed in autumn. So early plant knowledge became careful and local. It belonged to specific places. A marsh, a meadow, a mountain trail, a kitchen garden, a shaded forest floor. Across time, this human map became richer. It included foods, dyes, fibers, perfumes, medicines, and warnings. Plants were never only background scenery. They were tools, companions, risks, comforts, and teachers. But the most difficult lesson was still waiting inside the chemistry itself. A compound that harmed in one setting could sometimes help in another, when handled with knowledge, care, and exact measure. That exact measure changed the way people understood poisonous plants. A bitter leaf was no longer only a warning. A strong root was no longer only something to fear. A plant compound could be harmful in one setting, yet useful in another, if someone knew what it was, how much was present, and how the body would respond. This is one of the most delicate ideas in plant science. The difference between poison and medicine is often not the plant alone. It is the dose, the preparation, the purity, the body receiving it, and the knowledge of the person using it. A dose is simply the amount taken into the body. A few milligrams can be very different from a few grams. A milligram is 1,000th of a gram, about the weight of a tiny grain of fine powder. In medicine, that kind of small difference can matter. This is why plant-based medicines are not the same as chewing a leaf or guessing with a root. A medicine must be measured. It must be tested. It must be made in a controlled way, so one dose is not much stronger than another. A garden plant cannot offer that kind of control. One foxglove leaf may not contain the same amount of active compound as another. The age of the leaf, the season, the soil, the weather, and the plant's own growth can all change its chemistry. A cool spring leaf and a late summer leaf may not be identical. A plant growing in dry soil may not match one growing in damp shade. This is why expert handling matters. The plant is variable. The medicine must be precise. Purification is another important step. To purify something means to separate the useful compound from the rest of the plant material. A leaf contains many things at once: water, fiber, sugars, pigments, oils, proteins, defensive compounds. A scientist may need to separate one active molecule from hundreds of other molecules inside the same plant. That process can turn a messy mixture into something that can be measured and studied. It does not make the compound simple. It makes it knowable. In the early 1800s, chemists began isolating active compounds from plants more clearly. Morphine was isolated from the opium poppy in the early 19th century, becoming one of the first major plant alkaloids separated in pure form. That discovery helped show that a plant's effects could sometimes be traced to specific molecules, not just to the whole herb. Later, other plant compounds were isolated, tested, named, and measured. This changed medicine. It also changed how people thought about poisonous plants. They were no longer just mysterious. They were chemical libraries. A single plant could hold many compounds, each with its own shape and effect. Still, the narrow bridge between harm and help remained. A bridge is safe only when crossed with care. Too little may do nothing. Too much may overwhelm the body. The right amount, in the right form, used for the right reason, can become medicine. The wrong amount, the wrong plant part, or the wrong preparation can become harmful. This is why modern medicine does not rely on guesswork. It relies on testing, dosing, records, and trained professionals. Even when a medicine began with a plant, it usually passed through many steps before reaching a patient. The compound had to be identified. Its effects had to be studied. Its amount had to be controlled. Its risks had to be understood. Its use had to be weighed against its possible harm. The calm green world outside does not show these steps. A flower in a garden does not look like a pharmacy. A tree bark does not look like a laboratory. A seed does not look like a measured dose. Yet inside those living tissues are molecules that have shaped human healing for centuries. The same chemistry that keeps insects away, protects seeds, or makes leaves bitter, can sometimes become useful when humans learn to handle it with great care. So the line is not simple. Poison and medicine are not always opposite kingdoms. Sometimes they are neighbors, separated by a narrow bridge of dose, preparation, and knowledge. And that bridge becomes easier to see when we look closely at the famous plants that change medicine. That narrow bridge becomes easier to picture when we look at the plants themselves. Not as cures growing freely in a garden, not as simple remedies waiting to be guessed, but as living sources of powerful compounds that had to be studied with patience and care. Foxglove is one of the clearest examples. Digitalis purpurea grows tall spikes of purple, pink, or white flowers, each bloom shaped like a small hanging bell. In 1785, the English physician William Withering published a careful account of foxglove and its effects on dropsy, an old name for swelling caused by fluid buildup. Withering did not discover foxglove from nothing. He studied a folk remedy that had been used by an herbal healer, then spent years trying to understand which plant in the mixture was responsible. Foxglove contains cardiac glycosides, compounds that can affect how strongly and rhythmically the heart beats. Over time, This led to medicines such as digoxin, which came from related foxglove chemistry. The plant itself remains too variable and powerful to use casually, but the measured compound became part of modern medicine. A tall flower in a damp English garden had become a doorway into heart rhythm. Periwinkle tells a different story. The Madagascar periwinkle, Catharanthus roseus, has glossy green leaves and 5-petal flowers that can be pink, white, or purple. It is native to Madagascar, an island off the southeast coast of Africa, where many plants evolved in isolation. In the 1950s, scientists studying this plant found compounds that affected how cells divide. Cell division is the process where one cell copies itself and becomes two. In healthy growth, this process is controlled. In cancer, cell division can become uncontrolled. Compounds from Madagascar periwinkle, including vinblastine and vincristine, became important in cancer treatment research and medicine because they interfere with the tiny structures cells use when dividing. Those structures are called microtubules. You can picture them like fine inner scaffolding, helping a cell pull copied material into the right places. The periwinkle was not a gentle plant simply because its flowers look soft. Its chemistry reached into one of the deepest actions of living cells. Willow carries its medicine more quietly. For centuries, people used willow bark for pain and fever. The tree often grows near water, with narrow leaves and flexible branches moving in damp air along riverbanks. Willow bark contains salicin, a compound the body can turn into salicylic acid. In the 1800s, chemists learned how to study and change this kind of compound more precisely. In 1897, Felix Hoffmann, working at Bayer in Germany, helped create acetyl salicylic acid, the compound that became aspirin. Aspirin did not simply appear from a chewed twig. It came from a long chain of observation, plant chemistry, and laboratory work. The willow gave a clue. Chemistry shaped the clue into something more controlled. The yew tree offers another powerful example. Yews belong to the genus Taxus. They are evergreen trees and shrubs with dark needles and red, berry-like structures called arils. In the 1960s, researchers studying plants for possible medical compounds examined the Pacific yew, Taxus brevifolia, a tree native to the forests of the Pacific Northwest. From its bark, scientists identified paclitaxel, later known by the brand name Taxol. This compound also affects microtubules, the inner scaffolding cells used during division. Paclitaxel became an important chemotherapy drug. Chemotherapy means medicine used to treat cancer by targeting fast-growing cells. The discovery created a difficult problem because early extraction required yew bark, and removing bark can kill a tree. Later work found better ways to produce the compound and related medicines without relying only on wild Pacific yew bark. Here again, the story is not just plant power. It is also measurement, ethics, conservation, and care. Foxglove, periwinkle, willow, yew. Each one shows the same quiet lesson from a different angle. A plant compound may begin as defense. It may protect a leaf, bark, seed, or stem. But when humans study it carefully, separate it, measure it, and understand its risks, that same compound can sometimes enter medicine. The garden, the forest, the riverbank, and the island all become part of the same human story. A story of noticing, testing, learning, respecting limits. And once plants could heal, harm, or change the body so deeply, they naturally moved into older places as well, into myth, into warning, into story. Once plants could heal, harm, or change the body so deeply, they naturally became part of story. People did not only place them in gardens or medicine chests, they placed them in legends. They gave them names that sounded like warnings. They tied them to sleep, magic, danger, prophecy, and transformation. A plant that made the body feel strange was easy to imagine as a doorway to another world. A root that looked almost human became more than a root. A flower that grew in shadow became more than a flower. Mandrake is one of the clearest examples. The mandrake plant, from the genus Mandragora, grows low to the ground with broad leaves and pale purple or whitish flowers. Its thick root can split into 2 branches, making it look a little like legs. Sometimes the whole root has a rough human shape. For ancient and medieval people, that shape mattered. In a world where people looked for signs in stones, stars, animals, and plants, a root shaped like a small body felt powerful. Mandrake was mentioned by ancient writers, including Dioscorides in the 1st century CE, and it became famous in European folklore. Stories claimed the root screamed when pulled from the ground. The scream was legend, not botany. But the legend grew around a real plant with real effects. Mandrake contains tropane alkaloids, a group of compounds that can affect the nervous system. The nervous system is the body's network of signals, carrying messages between the brain, nerves, muscles, and organs. Because mandrake chemistry could alter the body, people wrapped it in caution and mystery. Hemlock became part of a different kind of story. Poison hemlock, Conium maculatum, is a tall plant with fern-like leaves, small white umbrella-shaped flowers, and purple blotches on its stems. It belongs to the carrot family, which makes it especially important to identify carefully, because some harmless-looking relatives can appear similar at first glance. In ancient Athens, hemlock became tied to law, punishment, and philosophy. The philosopher Socrates was sentenced to drink hemlock in 399 BCE. That single historical event made the plant a symbol of calm speech in the face of fate, and of the sharp boundary between wisdom and danger. The plant itself did not change, but human memory placed it beside one of the most famous scenes in Western history. Belladonna carries yet another story. Atropa belladonna is also called deadly nightshade. It has dark purple-black berries, dull green leaves, and bell-shaped flowers that can appear brownish-purple. Its scientific name reaches into myth. Atropa comes from Atropos, one of the 3 fates in Greek mythology. Atropos was the one who cut the thread of life. Belladonna means beautiful woman in Italian. That name likely connects to old cosmetic use, when extracts were used to widen the pupils of the eyes. Wider pupils were once considered beautiful in some settings. The effect came from atropine, a plant alkaloid that affects nerve signals. So belladonna became 2 symbols at once: beauty and danger, attraction and warning. A glossy berry in the shade, carrying a story far larger than its size. Wolfsbane, or aconitum, adds the feeling of transformation. Its deep blue or purple flowers are shaped like small helmets or hoods, which is why it is also called monkshood. The plant grows in cooler parts of Europe and Asia, often in mountain meadows or woodland edges. Its name connects it to wolves because some old traditions linked it with hunting, protection, and fear of wild animals. In Greek myth, aconite was sometimes said to have sprung from the foam of Cerberus, the three-headed dog of the underworld. That is not science, but it shows how strongly people felt the plant's power. A dark hooded flower became a plant of thresholds. Forest and village, human and animal, ordinary world and underworld. Folklore often exaggerated plants. Roots did not scream. Flowers did not cast spells by themselves. A berry was not evil because it was dark. But folklore can work like a lantern. It may not show the whole truth clearly. It may bend shapes and cast long shadows. Yet it often points toward something real that people had learned to respect. Do not pull this root carelessly. Do not confuse this plant with food. Do not trust beauty alone. Do not forget that the green world has boundaries. Over time, curiosity began to sit beside fear. People still told stories, but they also labeled, studied, collected, and compared. Eventually, some of these plants were gathered behind walls and gates, not for magic, but for education. Eventually, curiosity needed a place to stand quietly beside caution. Not every poisonous plant could remain only a legend, a warning, or a half-remembered story. Some had to be named, labeled, compared, placed where people could see them clearly without touching them carelessly. This is the idea behind a poison garden. A poison garden is a planted collection of toxic, irritating, or otherwise powerful plants grown for education rather than use. It is not meant to make the plants seem frightening. It is meant to make them understandable. A visitor walks along a path. A gate stands nearby. A label sits beside a leaf, a flower, or a stem. And suddenly, a plant that once lived only in rumor becomes a real species with a real shape, a real name, and a real place in science. One of the best-known examples is the poison garden at Alnwick Garden in Northumberland, England. Alnwick is in the far northeast of England, not far from the North Sea, where old stone buildings, damp weather, and green countryside create the feeling of a long, layered history. The modern poison garden opened in 2005. It sits behind black iron gates marked with warnings. Inside are more than 100 plants known for strong chemistry, including species used in medicine, folklore, history, and poison control education. Some plants are kept behind cages. Some are watched carefully by trained guides. Visitors do not wander through alone, picking leaves or brushing past stems. They are guided. They listen. They look. They learn names that may have once felt like storybook words. Foxglove, hemlock, belladonna, mandrake, monkshood. These names become less vague when a person can see the plant itself. The purple bells of foxglove, the small white umbrella-shaped flowers of hemlock, the dark berries of belladonna, the hooded blue-purple flowers of monkshood. Each plant has a body, not just a reputation. Each one has leaves arranged in a certain way, flowers with a certain shape, and a season when it grows most strongly. This is called identification. Identification means learning how to recognize one living thing from another. It is one of the most useful skills in botany because many plants can look similar at first glance. A safe plant and an unsafe plant may both have white flowers. Two green leaves may seem almost identical until you notice their edges, their veins, their smell, their height, or the way they attach to the stem. A poison garden teaches that details matter. A purple blotch on a stem, a milky sap from a broken leaf, a berry growing alone rather than in a cluster, a bulb hidden underground, a leaf with 3 leaflets. These small features can turn guessing into knowledge, and knowledge is calmer than fear. Botanical literacy is the ability to read the plant world with more care. Just as reading words lets a person understand a page, reading plants lets a person understand a garden, a field edge, or a forest path. A label beside a plant does more than give a name. It connects the visible plant to its hidden chemistry. It explains why the plant mattered in medicine, why it appeared in folklore, why animals may avoid it, why people should admire it without treating it like food. In this way, poison gardens turn old anxiety into careful attention. The plant is still respected. The gate still matters. The rules still matter. But the feeling changes. A feared plant becomes a studied plant. A mysterious berry becomes a known fruiting body. A dangerous-sounding name becomes part of a larger living system. Standing behind a fence, a poisonous plant can teach the same lesson again and again. Nature is not safer when we pretend every green thing is gentle. It is safer when we learn to see clearly. And once that lesson is learned behind garden gates, it begins to follow us back into ordinary life, where plant defenses can appear not only in rare specimens, but in familiar foods as well. That lesson follows us all the way into the kitchen. A plant does not stop being chemical just because humans learn to eat it. A potato in a pantry, a tomato on a cutting board, a bowl of beans soaking before dinner, a cassava root pulled from tropical soil. Each one belongs to the same living world as foxglove, milkweed, and rhubarb. The difference is that humans spent thousands of years learning which parts to eat, which plants to breed, and which preparations made food safer and more useful. The potato is a quiet example. Solanum tuberosum was first domesticated in the Andes of South America, where people were growing many kinds of potatoes thousands of years before the crop reached Europe in the 1500s. A potato tuber is not a root. It is a swollen underground stem that stores starch for the plant. When conditions are right, small buds on the potato, often called eyes, can sprout into new shoots. But potatoes also belong to the nightshade family, and they can produce defensive compounds called glycoalkaloids. The main ones are solanine and chaconine. These compounds help protect the plant from insects, fungi, and animals. They are found in higher amounts in sprouts, green skin, and damaged or stressed potatoes. The green color itself comes from chlorophyll, the pigment plants use to capture light. Chlorophyll is not the harmful part. But greening can be a sign that the potato has been exposed to light, and that defensive compounds may have increased too. So a potato is not just a simple brown or yellow lump in the dark. It is a living storage organ, still able to respond to light, damage, and time. Cassava gives an even older lesson in human care. Manihot esculenta is a major food crop in tropical regions of Africa, South America, and Asia. It grows well in poor soils and dry conditions, which is one reason it became so important. Its thick roots are rich in starch and can feed large numbers of people. But cassava also contains cyanogenic compounds. Cyanogenic means able to release cyanide-related chemistry under certain conditions. For generations, communities developed careful traditional methods to reduce these compounds before eating cassava. The details vary by region, but the larger lesson is the same. Humans did not make cassava useful by pretending its chemistry was not there. They made it useful by learning it patiently. Tomatoes show a gentler side of the same pattern. Solanum lycopersicum is also a nightshade related to potatoes and eggplants. The ripe red tomato fruit is a familiar food around the world. But the leaves and green parts of the plant contain different defensive compounds, including tomatine. This is one reason the tomato plant itself has a strong smell when touched. That scent comes from oils and other molecules released from the leaves and stems. To a gardener, it smells like summer. To many insects, it is part of the plant's warning system. Almonds carry another story of domestication. The sweet almonds sold as food come from Prunus dulcis varieties that were selected over time for mild, edible seeds. But wild and bitter almonds can contain far more amygdalin, the same broad kind of compound found in small amounts in apple seeds. Humans favored sweeter, safer almond trees, slowly turning a defended wild seed into a valuable orchard crop. Beans show how preparation and chemistry often meet. Some raw or undercooked beans contain lectins, which are proteins that can bother digestion. Red kidney beans are especially known for a lectin called phytohemagglutinin. Traditional cooking reduces this problem, which is why beans became staple foods in so many cultures. Domestication did not erase plant defense. It managed it. It selected milder plants. It taught careful preparation. It separated fruit from leaf, seed from shell, tuber from sprout, food from boundary. The kitchen, in this way, is also a quiet classroom. Every familiar crop carries traces of the wild plant it came from. And some plants do not keep their defenses only inside leaves, roots, seeds, or skins. Some send their chemistry outward, into the soil itself. Some plants do not keep their chemistry tucked only inside their bodies. They let it move outward. A leaf falls. A root grows. Rainwater passes through old husks and bark. Tiny compounds slip into the soil, where other roots are waiting in the dark. This is called allelopathy. Allelopathy means that one plant releases chemicals that affect the growth, germination, or survival of nearby plants. Germination is the moment a seed wakes and begins to grow. A root tip breaks through the seed coat. A pale shoot rises toward light. But if the soil around it carries certain plant chemicals, that young growth may slow, weaken, or fail to begin. This is not the same as an animal being poisoned by eating a leaf. It is quieter than that. It is chemistry moving through the ground. A plant shaping the space around itself without ever moving from where it stands. One of the best-known examples is the black walnut tree, Juglans nigra. Black walnut is native to eastern North America. It can grow more than 70 feet tall, with dark ridged bark, long compound leaves, and round green husks that fall to the ground in autumn. Inside each husk is the hard walnut shell, and inside that shell is the edible nut. The tree is valuable for wood, wildlife, and food. But it is also famous among gardeners because many plants struggle to grow near it. Black walnut produces a compound called juglone. Juglone is found in several parts of the tree, including the roots, leaves, bark, and green nut husks. In the living tree, some of this chemistry is stored in a less active form, called hydrojuglone. When plant material is exposed to air, soil microbes, or decay, it can change into juglone. That juglone can enter the soil around the tree. The highest levels are often near the roots and under the drip line, which is the area beneath the outer reach of the branches where rain drips from the canopy. You can picture the tree making an invisible circle. Above ground, the circle is made of shade. Below ground, it is made of roots and chemistry. Some plants are sensitive to juglone. Tomatoes are a common example. So are peppers, potatoes, eggplants, and some apple trees. In sensitive plants, juglone can interfere with normal growth. Leaves may yellow, stems may wilt, roots may struggle. The plant may look thirsty even when the soil is damp. Other plants tolerate black walnut much better. Grasses, many native woodland plants, some maples, and certain shrubs can grow nearby without the same trouble. So the soil is not simply poisoned in every direction for every living thing. It is selective. It depends on the plant, the distance, the soil, the drainage, and how much walnut material is breaking down nearby. This is what makes allelopathy so interesting. It is not a dramatic wall. It is a gentle chemical pressure, a slow influence spreading through roots, fallen leaves, husks, and rain-darkened soil. Other plants use similar strategies. Eucalyptus trees can release aromatic oils from their leaves. When the leaves fall and decay, some compounds may affect seedlings nearby. Certain sagebrush species release chemicals that can influence the growth of neighboring plants in dry western landscapes. Some grasses and crop plants can also produce root chemicals that affect competitors in the soil. Even tiny seeds may be sensitive to these hidden signals before they ever reach sunlight. A seed lying under leaf litter is not resting in empty ground. It is surrounded by minerals, fungi, bacteria, old roots, decaying stems, moisture, and plant-made compounds. Soil is not just dirt. It is a living mixture. A spoonful of healthy soil can hold millions or even billions of microbes, along with fragments of leaves, grains of sand, clay particles, and threads of fungi. Into that busy underground world, plants release chemistry. Some chemicals feed microbes. Some help roots find nutrients. Some warn other plants. Some slow competition. It is another kind of boundary. Not a thorn, not a bitter taste, not a milky sap on a broken stem, but an invisible territory underfoot. A tree stands still for decades, while its roots quietly change the ground around it. And once plants can shape the soil beneath them, poisonous chemistry is no longer only a plant-by-plant story. It becomes part of whole forests, fields, deserts, and ecosystems spread across the world. Once plant chemistry spreads into whole landscapes, the story becomes larger than any single garden. Every environment teaches plants a different lesson. A rainforest, a desert, a wetland, a forest floor, and a grassland do not ask the same things from the plants that live there. Each place has its own pressures, its own insects, its own hungry animals, its own soil, heat, shade, floods, fires, and dry seasons. In tropical rainforests, the pressure can be intense. Warmth and moisture allow plants to grow quickly, but they also allow insects, fungi, and bacteria to thrive. A leaf in a rainforest may be shaded beneath taller trees, dripping after rain, and visited by beetles, caterpillars, ants, and fungi in the same day. Because insects are so active in many tropical forests, some plants defend young leaves with strong tastes, tough skins, latex, or alkaloids. The rubber tree, Hevea brasiliensis, native to the Amazon basin, releases white latex when its bark is cut. Humans learn to collect that latex for rubber, but for the plant, the sticky fluid helps seal wounds and can discourage insects. In the same broad tropical world, many species make bitter or irritating compounds to protect leaves that took precious energy to build under crowded shade. A rainforest is like a classroom full of mouths. Plants there learn chemistry under constant attention. Deserts teach a different lesson. Water is the treasure. A cactus may spend months or years building up stored water inside thick green tissue. If a grazing animal eats that tissue, it is not only taking food, it is taking the plant's hidden reservoir. So desert plants often defend themselves with spines, waxy skins, bitter sap, and tough fibers. A saguaro cactus, Carnegie gigantea, can live for more than 150 years in the Sonoran Desert. Its pleated stem expands after rain, storing water inside. Its spines shade the surface slightly and make the soft inner tissue harder to reach. Some desert plants, such as certain euphorbias, use milky latex as a chemical boundary. The desert classroom teaches thrift. Save water. Guard it carefully. Do not waste leaves where spines will do. Wetlands teach plants to survive in soaked ground. The soil may be low in oxygen because water fills the spaces where air would normally sit. Some wetland plants grow hollow stems or special air channels to move oxygen down toward their roots. Others defend themselves from insects and grazing animals while standing in mud, shallow water, or bogs. Water hemlock, cicuta, grows in wet places across parts of North America. It often appears near ditches, stream banks, marshes, or pond edges, with white umbrella-shaped flower clusters. Its strongest chemistry is found in the roots and lower stem. The wetland itself may look soft and peaceful, with still water reflecting the sky, but the plants there are as chemically serious as any desert shrub. Temperate forests offer another lesson. Here, plants must handle changing seasons. Spring leaves unfold quickly. Summer insects arrive. Autumn pulls energy back toward roots and wood. A tree like black walnut shapes the soil with juglone. A shrub like mountain laurel, Kalmia latifolia, carries compounds that help defend its evergreen leaves. A forest plant may need to protect leaves not just for weeks, but through winter, cold, snow, and browsing deer. Grasslands teach plants to live with grazing, fire, and open sky. Many grasses grow from low points near the soil, so they can regrow after being bitten or burned. But grasslands also contain defended plants among the grasses. Local weeds in the genus Astragalus grow in parts of western North America and carry compounds that grazing animals may avoid or be affected by. Tall larkspurs, Delphinium species, can rise in mountain meadows and open ranges, with blue or purple flowers above divided leaves. In these open places, plant defense must work under bright sun, wind, hoof, tooth, and drought. Each environment teaches a different chemical lesson. The rainforest teaches plants to answer insects. The desert teaches them to guard water. The wetland teaches them to survive soaked soil. The forest teaches them to endure seasons. The grassland teaches them to return after grazing and fire. Across all these places, the same truth appears softly. Poisonous plants are not evil. They are only alive. They are not angry. They are not cruel. They are not waiting with a plan. A plant has no brain like an animal brain. It has no teeth, no eyes watching from the leaves, no intention hiding inside a stem. What it has is life, cells, roots, water, sunlight, seeds, and a need to continue. When a plant makes a bitter compound, a sticky sap, a sharp crystal, or a powerful alkaloid, it is not making a choice the way a person makes a choice. It is expressing traits shaped by survival. Over many generations, plants with helpful defenses left more seeds behind. Those seeds grew into more plants with similar defenses. Slowly, the chemistry remained. A poisonous plant, then, is not a villain in a garden. It is a living thing with boundaries. A boundary is different from an attack. A thorn says, "Do not bite this stem too easily." A bitter leaf says, "This meal may not be worth the trouble." A milky sap says, "This wound will be sealed, and this insect may be slowed." A protected seed says, "The future inside me matters." These signals are not personal. They are practical. A leaf exists to gather sunlight. Inside its green cells are chloroplasts, tiny structures that use light to help make sugar. That sugar feeds the plant. If insects eat too many leaves, the plant loses part of its ability to make food. So defending a leaf can help protect the whole plant. A root has a quieter job. It holds the plant in place and gathers water and minerals from the soil. Some roots also store energy. A carrot root, a beet root, a cassava root, and many wild roots are underground savings accounts for the plant. If an animal eats the root, the plant may lose the stored food it needs to regrow. So roots may hold their own chemistry. A seed is even more important. Inside a seed is a small living beginning, often protected by a coat and supplied with stored food. The parent plant may never move, but the seed can travel. By wind, by water, by fur, by the stomach of a bird. by the hand of a gardener. Protecting seeds means protecting tomorrow's plants. This is why many plants place strong defenses in seeds, seed coats, or unripe fruits. Flowers also need protection, even though they often seem delicate and inviting. A flower is part of reproduction. It may hold pollen. It may lead to fruit. It may feed a bee with nectar while asking that bee to carry pollen to another flower. If a flower is eaten too soon, that exchange may never happen. So even a soft blossom can carry chemical limits. The plant is not trying to harm the world. It is trying to keep enough of itself intact to bloom, fruit, and seed. This changes the feeling of the word poisonous. The word can sound harsh. It can make a plant seem like a threat. But in nature, poison is often closer to a fence than a sword. It marks a line. It says that this leaf, this root, this seed, or this sap has a purpose inside the plant's life. A rose does this with prickles. A cactus does this with spines. A nettle does this with tiny stinging hairs. A foxglove does this with chemistry hidden in green tissue. Different forms, same idea. The plant is setting terms. Many of these terms are invisible until something crosses them. A leaf must be chewed. A stem must be broken. A root must be dug up. A seed must be crushed. Only then does the defense become clear. That quietness can make poisonous plants seem mysterious, but it also makes them deeply understandable. They are not outside the natural order. They are one of the ways the natural order protects itself. Every meadow, forest, wetland, desert, and garden is full of living boundaries. Some are soft, some are sharp, some are chemical, some are seasonal, some are learned by animals over time. And once poisonous plants are seen as living boundaries instead of dark exceptions, they begin to teach something larger about nature itself. Seen this way, poisonous plants become quieter, not less powerful, not less important, but easier to understand. They are part of a world where nearly everything is giving signals. A flower gives color. A berry gives shine. A leaf gives scent when crushed. A stem gives sap when broken. A thorn gives shape before touch. A bitter taste gives warning before swallowing. A plant does not need words to say that it has limits. Nature is full of these small signals. The red of a ripe fruit may tell a bird that the seeds are ready to travel. The green of an unripe fruit may help it hide among leaves until the seeds inside are mature. The sweet scent of a flower may guide a moth in the evening. The ultraviolet patterns on some petals, invisible to human eyes, can guide bees toward nectar. To the bee, the flower may look marked with landing lines. To us, it may simply look yellow, white, or blue. The same plant can be sending several messages at once. Some messages invite, some protect, some warn. Some wait for the right season. Seasonal timing is one of the quietest boundaries of all. A spring shoot may be tender and heavily defended because it is new. A summer leaf may become tougher, thicker, or more bitter. A fruit may change color only when its seeds are ready. A seed may stay dormant in the soil for months or years, waiting for enough moisture, warmth, or light to begin. Dormant means alive but resting. The seed is not dead. It is waiting until the conditions around it make growth more likely. That kind of waiting is also a boundary. Not yet. Not here. Not until the soil is right. Poisonous plants teach attention because they ask us to notice details. Not just the name of a plant, but the shape of its leaves, the color of its berries, the smell of its crushed stem, the place where it grows, the season when it appears, the difference between a bulb and a root, a stalk and a leaf, a ripe fruit and an unripe one. A daffodil bulb is not an onion. A rhubarb stalk is not the same as a rhubarb leaf. A potato tuber stored in darkness is not the same as one turning green in the light. These are simple details, but they make the world clearer. They teach restraint because not every beautiful thing needs to be touched, picked, tasted, or used. A foxglove can be admired where it grows. A lily of the valley can scent a shaded garden without being handled as food. A black walnut can stand over its circle of soil, changing what grows beneath it. A milkweed patch can be left for monarch caterpillars. Respect often means allowing a plant to remain itself. They teach curiosity too. Not fear that closes the eye. Curiosity that looks more carefully. Why does this plant smell sharp? Why does this berry shine? Why does this leaf release white sap? Why do insects avoid one plant but gather on another? Each question leads back to chemistry, ecology, and time. A plant is never only decoration. It is a living record of the pressures around it. Heat, cold, drought, rain, insects, soil, grazing animals, fungi, sunlight, competition. Every thorn, scent, bitter molecule, and hidden crystal is part of that record. So each poisonous plant can be imagined as a quiet living thing saying, "Come closer," but not carelessly. Come closer with attention. Come closer with patience. Come closer with the understanding that beauty and boundary can live in the same stem. That is a gentle lesson, and it reaches beyond poisonous plants. Much of nature works this way. A tide pool has edges. A forest has seasons. A desert has limits. A mountain meadow has flowers that bloom for only a short time. The living world is generous, but it is not without rules. Poisonous plants make those rules visible through color, bitterness, sap, scent, and timing. They remind us that respect is a form of closeness. Not distance, not fear, but careful attention. And now the path can drift back through everything we have seen. The still roots, the defended leaves, the borrowed chemistry of insects, the old medicines, the myths and warnings, the soil shaped by trees, the wide world of forests, deserts, wetlands, and gardens. All of it returns to the same quiet place where the journey began. And so, the garden becomes quiet again. The leaves are still. The flowers hold their shapes in the dark. The roots are hidden under the soil, where water moves slowly between grains of sand, clay, and old pieces of leaf. Nothing seems to be happening. But now that stillness feels different. A plant cannot run from a deer. It cannot lift itself away from a caterpillar. It cannot step aside when a fungus reaches into damp tissue after rain. So many plants learned another way to remain in the world. They built chemistry into their bodies. Some of it was bitter. Some of it was sticky. Some of it was fragrant. Some of it was stored in seeds, roots, leaves, bark, or sap. A thorn can be seen from a distance. A cactus spine can be felt before the soft inner water is reached. But a molecule is quieter. It waits inside the plant's cells. It may appear only when a leaf is torn, a stem is broken, a seed is crushed, or a root is disturbed. That is why poisonous plants are not simply frightening. They are living examples of survival. Foxglove showed us how beauty and strength can share the same stem. Its purple bells can guide bees inward, while its chemistry helped inspire medicines that affect the rhythm of the heart. Milkweed showed us that a plant's defense can become another creature's shield. A monarch caterpillar can feed on milkweed leaves, store some of the plant's cardinalides, and later carry that warning into orange and black wings. Rhubarb showed us that one plant can hold different stories in different parts. The stalk can become food. The leaf belongs to a more careful chemical boundary. Apple seeds, potato sprouts, cassava roots, beans, almonds, tomato leaves, and many other familiar foods reminded us that human food history is also a history of learning. People did not erase plant chemistry. They learned which parts to use, which plants to breed, which seeds to save, which foods to cook, soak, grind, ferment, or handle with care. The kitchen became one of humanity's quiet classrooms. The forest taught another lesson. A black walnut tree can stand in one place for decades, shaping not only the shade above the ground, but the soil below it. Its juglone moves through roots, leaves, bark, and husks, affecting some neighboring plants more than others. A tree can make an invisible territory without taking a single step. Across the world, each landscape taught plants in its own way. Rainforest taught them to answer insects, fungi, and constant moisture. Deserts taught them to guard water inside thick stems and tough tissues. Wetlands taught them to survive in soaked soil. Forests taught them to endure seasons, shade, browsing, and winter. Grasslands taught them to live with grazing, fire, wind, and open sky. In every place, plant chemistry became a form of boundary. Not cruelty, not anger, not evil, only life protecting itself. Humans entered this ancient story late. We watched animals. We tasted carefully. We remembered mistakes. We passed warnings through folklore, farming, cooking, medicine, and story. Mandrake, hemlock, belladonna, and wolfsbane became symbols because people sensed that certain plants carried unusual power. Some stories bent the truth. Some made the roots scream or the flowers seem enchanted. But even exaggerated stories often held a small, useful light. Look carefully. Do not guess. Respect the green world. Later, poison gardens placed these plants behind gates, labels, and rules. A feared name became a real leaf. A legend became a species. A warning became a form of education. And through all of it, the same lesson kept returning. Nature is generous, but it is not without limits. A berry may shine. A flower may smell sweet. A leaf may look soft. A root may seem ordinary in the hand. But each one belongs to a living system older than our gardens, older than our written records, older than the first fields humans planted. The quiet chemistry of poisonous plants teaches attention. It teaches patience. It teaches that beauty and boundary can live together. So as the garden settles back into the night, it does not need to feel alarming. It can simply feel deeper, a place of roots and seeds, sap and scent, flowers and hidden molecules, a place where every still green shape is doing the old work of staying alive. And with that understanding, the garden is not frightening, only more complete than it first appeared.